Hey everybody, this is Dan Lapel for New Focus Recordings. Happy to be joined by Tom Flaherty, composer and cellist whose album Mixed Messages, FCR326, comes out this Friday, June 10th. Hi Tom, how's everything going?
Terrific, terrific.
Beautiful Southern California there.
It is beautiful, and you have a beautiful background of sorts as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, no, it's a really nice album cover.
Uh,
So we've been sort of going back and forth about doing an album release for a few years now. It's
yeah,
great that it finally happened, and uh, there was a lot of music to choose from, but we sort of ended up narrowing down and focusing on your electroacoustic music. Do you want to give a sort of overview on maybe this collection of pieces, or your general work with electronics overall?
well, this collection of pieces is just sort of done. I think the oldest is almost 20 years old at this point, is it? Or no, 10 maybe. Yeah, almost 20 years old. Um, I've been teaching at a college at Pomona College for many years, and when I started here, there was a Mac Plus and a Yamaha DX7, and the possibility of courses came up. It was just sort of a departmental, in the corner of the department, we had these little bit of equipment, and it seemed to me that we needed to have to at least match what the students had in their dorm rooms. And so gradually we've done that. We've tried to keep ahead of them. It's hard to do because things keep changing. And I had only done a little bit of electronic music myself before then. I did a little in the '70s, and it was maddening to me because you get a perfect sound, and then you'd sneeze, and then it would take 24 hours to get that sound back again. The old analog days, and we were just moving into digital control of sound for mere mortals rather than engineers. So it seemed like a good thing for the college and a good thing for me, and so I've learned quite a bit since then. And at the same time, I play the cello. I love to play music with fingers, and so I ended up doing almost all of my music for humans to play with electronics. And I founded a series named after Vladimir Usichevsky, who graduated from Pomona College in 1935 and left some money that we've long since spent. But we have this annual concert of music that features guest performers, guest composers, guest inventors, uh, 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 people like Don Buchla and as an inventor, Lucy Shelton as a performer of very challenging music with electronics, or often, and many others. I should have thought I had to have a list in front of me. Uh, so I started writing these pieces for my friends, essentially, and I guess the earliest piece is what is the earliest piece? It looks like Violation, if my dates are right. And that's for my wife, Cindy Fogg, who plays viola. And so I would say, as I wrote these pieces, it was one at a time. It was for humans that I knew and loved, and whose music making I admired. And after many years, it seemed, well, they would go together as a CD. Why not?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, it makes a great collection. Uh, I sort of I think came to know your music through your Calvin Trillin
Yes.
setting. A heck of a job, right?
Yes.
Uh, and it's been fun to get to know your electroacoustic music. It's obviously a sort of different format, but there's something of the same. I feel like you. Well, forgive me if I'm mischaracterizing, but I feel like you create sort of interesting, almost not exactly puzzles, but you're the way you set up relationship between the electronics and the instrumentalist, and the way you work with the material between those two, uh, reminds me a little bit of the sort of riddle type approach that you might have in a Calvin Trillin type of text or something like that. It always seems like the pieces are there's something to be worked out
Yeah.
on top of the expressive layer, which is always there as well, which I always find really fun because there are multiple ways to engage with these scores. So uh, let's take a listen a little bit to, or actually have you introduce and then take a listen to the opening track for Toy Piano, Shepherd's Pie.
Uh, uh, oh, I should say something one first.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you?
Yeah, this was Toy Piano was sort of the rage. When was this written? I don't remember now. 2010. Yeah, everybody was writing for Toy Piano, and so I jumped on the bandwagon and wrote a piece for my colleague Genevieve Lee. She's a wonderful pianist. I've written several pieces for her, and I've got to play with her often, and just a wonderful colleague to work with. And she asked for a piece for Toy Piano and Electronics for the Sushevsky Festival that I mentioned earlier. And so in this piece, I recorded the sound of every note on the piano, the particular piano, the toy piano she was using, and then I edited it in various ways in software. And so all the sounds from the electronics originally were toy piano sounds. And then the thing that fascinated me about the toy piano, aside from the fact that it was kind of a funny thing to do and a fun sound, was that if you play the lowest note and the highest note, they seemed like they were adjacent, because the overtone series, the way the overtone series competes with the fundamental. It's just getting too geeky for this talk. I don't know, but if you just
No, this is exactly the right level of geekiness.
I'll continue shortly then. If you just play a scale on it, at some point, it seems as though you're going back to the earlier, the lower octave. And the reason is that if you play a very low note, you can hardly hear the fundamental. One of the overtones is much louder than the fundamental. Anyway, this brought to mind Shepard tones. Roger Shepard was a physicist who coined the term Shepard tone, where he created a construct. I won't go into all the details for this, I guess, but you get the impression that it's like the audio equivalent of a barber pole spinning. Things seem to go up and up and up and up, but they never get to the next octave as it's set.
What's the context where that happens in the Shepard scale?
I'm sure in the piece or the
no, well, in his phenomenon that he identified.
Well, he constructed a series of sine waves, and he had them just go up, and then he faded out the low ones as they got high.
Oh, I see.
And so, but in a gentle way, so you get the impression of a constantly rising siren sound, and it just never gets. You'd expect at the rate it's going that it would go beyond our hearing in a minute, and it never does. It always kind of.
It's fascinating. How does the actual wraparound, the moment when the high pitch is fading out,
mm-hmm.
and he's bringing in the next pitch, which we perceive as continuing to go up, right? But somehow must be in frequency lower. Is that
well? There's more than two. There's 3 or 4 of them, and so the very top we can probably hear maybe 4 or 5 maybe as he constructs it. So the top one's fading out, but you hardly it's so gradual. Your ear catches the next highest, and then your ear catches the next highest.
Oh, so it's sort of a relationship between frequency and volume that helps create. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
But I guess in the case of your piece, it's a issue of frequency versus overtone, or versus sort of like the balance of the overtones within the.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's a similar thing. It's the frequency, but it's not controlled by sine waves. It's just
right. Of course.
A physical fact that if you play the lowest note on a toy piano, you hardly hear the lowest pitch. You can't ask somebody to sing that note, and it's really hard because
that's because of the nature of the rod, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's a short, stubby rod, and the fundamental is hard to get unless you do something electronic to it.
I wonder if anybody ever made like a larger toy. I mean, I guess if you make a larger toy piano, you're making a piano.
Yeah.
could you make a larger toy piano so that so it's the perfect fifth overtone that's very strong, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So you could have like a longer rod where the fundamental was stronger in the lower register.
That's right. You'd ruin it. You'd ruin the whole toy piano.
Certainly wouldn't. Right. It wouldn't work for your piece.
Yeah. There are different kinds. There's the one we use is the oh gosh, what is it? The American made one. I'm blanking on it. This is terrible that you're recording. There's another kind that's not as common in this country called Michelsom, I think it is. That's a bigger thing,
Ah,
and the rods I think are longer, and you do that phenomenon is not there. But the most common that is you can hear the lowest note.
yeah.
It's more like a bell. But the most common one in this country, at least, is this brand that I can't think of right now.
Right. Well, I
And
mean, I guess you could imagine that someone might create an instrument that is no longer really looks like a toy, and they
yeah,
get you have to call it a bell piano or something like
yeah,
that.
sure, yeah, yeah. And bells are another issue.
Yeah,
Play a
sure.
low chime sometimes. You can't be sure what note's being played.
Right, right, right. There's a sort of
Or
constellation of overtones in there. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. Or a church bell. Who knows what that note is unless you hear another note next to it.
Right.
Yeah,
Because I guess the physics of uh overtones for like a string
yeah,
or a vibrating cone are different than for something like a bell, which has
yeah. Much simpler. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
pretty interesting. Wow. Okay. Cool. That's a great intro. Do you want to say anything else before we check out a little bit of this?
No, just I just love Genevieve's playing, and I'm very grateful that she asked for the piece and played it quite a number of times, and it's kind of made the rounds in the toy piano world a little bit since then.
Oh, great! It's a really great way to start the record too. It's the first track. So
Thanks.
this is a bit of shepherd's pie, spelled P-I. We can
Yes.
talk about that afterwards too. And it's Genevieve Fay Wen Lee on toy piano. Very cool. Well, there's one more sort of fun thing to unpack in here, which is that, as I said, the title of the piece, Shepherd's Pie, and it's spelled P-I, and so you reference pie in several ways in the piece. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yes. Of course, Shepard is spelled as Roger Shepard would spell his name.
Right, right, not as a right,
It's not with sheep, and
or in the shepherd's pie, I guess. Well, I don't know.
that's right.
Maybe Roger has his own.
Yeah, he might have his own restaurant. I don't
Yeah,
know.
right, right, right.
But and pi is 3.14, etc., etc. And this, like pi, this piece has basically a little bit more than three different sounds derived from the piano, toy piano. Basically, about three tempi, and there's one other thing I forget what it is now. Three. What is it? That's it. Maybe that's it. I can't remember. It's something else like that. Basically, slightly more than three things in various musical dimensions are
Yeah,
what the piece is about.
right. That's cool. So, well, I mean, this sort of speaks to what I was saying before about one of the things I really enjoy about your music. There's like all these different things going on. I could focus on the pie part, I could focus on the shepherd part, and I could just listen to the toy piano piece, which is a simple piece on its own without, without necessarily focusing on the phenomenon. Um, Great. Well, let's check out another piece on the record. I think we were gonna take a listen to one of the movements from Recess, right? Which is
Oh, yeah,
a string quartet piece. But why don't
yeah,
you set this up? Three movement piece.
yeah. It's a three-movement piece. It's called Recess. It's I think of it as playful. It may not seem that way to everybody, but I think of it as a playful piece. And it's for string quartet, the Eclipse String Quartet's a wonderful quartet out here in Los Angeles. asked for the piece, and uh, I wrote it so that it could be done with or without electronics. Eventually, they'll probably release the non-electronic version of it, but it was they wanted something with electronics. Originally, I wanted it to stand on its own without electronics. So I think it does. They've done it a number of times that way, and so it's in three movements: spin, recess, and tag. And I think of it as maybe seem perverse to some people, but I think of it as children playing a lot of the time. It may seem heavier than that, but and so spin it has tiny little musical fragments a la minimalism, and it spins around all the way through the piece in various ways, and the players get kind of throw little motives back and forth the entire time, and it's fun. Said enough.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, here's a little bit of the first movement of Recess, played by the Eclipse Quartet. It's Spin. Great. Well, let's look at another one of the pieces, Under the Weather. This is Viola and Organ. And I guess in some ways, this is maybe the closest that we get to sort of a musique concrète, these sort of environmental water sounds. Are those actually recorded, or did you generate those digitally?
No, they're actual recordings.
Oh, they are. Okay, cool. Yeah. Tell us a bit more about this one.
This is from my wife Cindy again, and Bill Peterson, who was the college organist, who was part of the name of his position here. He retired a couple of years ago now at Pomona, and it makes use of, as you say, sounds of weather, mainly rain, sometimes wind. I think it ends actually literally with the sound of surf, but it kind of overlaps. It should be unclear exactly what the sound is for the listener. It's for viola and organ, and I don't know of many pieces for viola, organ, and electronics, so it may be the complete works. I'm not quite sure yet. And in the piece, there's a storm, and the storm disappears. There's a little extra musical kind of a thread throughout. And in the live performances, really maybe the most fun thing about it is the audience is instructed to take out their phones or cameras, and at a certain point, somebody cues and starts taking flash photographs. So we hear the thunder at the climax of the piece.
You get lightning.
You get lightning, yes.
Right. Oh, so it's a multimedia light show experience.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we're not yet equipped to do this here at New Folks Recordings, but maybe we'll work on that.
We can imagine it anyway.
We can imagine it, yeah. Great. Well, you know what? Let's check out later in the piece, Closer to the Storm.
Okay.
This is Under the Weather, and it's Cynthia Fogg on viola and Mark Wingis, or Wings? Wingus, sorry, on organ. Very nice. Well, it was great to hop on Zoom for a moment, Tom. Check out some of the music. We don't want to give too much of it away because we want people to go get the album, and it comes out on Friday. All the places you'd expect to engage with music these days. Some of them involve paying for it, and some of them involve not exactly paying for it. But the most important thing is that you listen and hear these really cool pieces and get to know Tom Flaherty's music if you don't already. So thanks again. Let's make sure to give a shout out to some of the people who worked on this album. It was recorded in the hall at your institution, Pomona College, Bridges Hall,
Uh-huh.
by Barry Werger Gottesman.
Yes,
Cool.
exactly.
Ryan Strieber, our hometown hero, did the mastering.
Hmm.
And Mark Wolf, our other hometown hero, did the design and layout.
Hmm.
And your music's published by American Composers Alliance.
That's it.
Uh, anything else? Oh, and the album's possible through the support of Pomona College and the Sontag Fellowship.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's a pleasure to finally circle around to get some of your work out on New Focus, and thanks for approaching us with it, and looking forward to it.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure chatting, and thanks for the whole album. It's great.
Great. All right, Tom. Take care, and take care, everybody in YouTube land. Bye bye.